Denisen's novels are released to both reader and critical acclaim. Her second novel, The Songs That Could Have Been, won both the Selah and the Carol Awards, and her debut novel, Roots of Wood and Stone, was a finalist for the Christie Award. In addition to her writing, Amanda is an accomplished professional cellist and pianist who frequently performs with orchestras, chamber groups, and her church's worship team, as well as serving as a choral accompanist. A lifelong denizen of the Flatlands, Amanda currently lives in Kansas with her patient, loving, and hilarious husband, their 3 adorable winlets, and a snuggly Siamese cat. Amanda writes inspirational split-time women's fiction, which is a fancy way of saying she writes books with multiple timelines featuring strong, resilient women and a God who loves endlessly, who saves unconditionally, and who creates unfathomable beauty from even our most desolate ashes. Ashes. Oh my goodness, this morning. Amanda, welcome. How are you?
That's okay. It's early. Good morning.
I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for getting up early so we could talk to each other. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I am doing well. I thought I was doing well. I'm already stumbling this morning,
So
but I'm
great.
excited to have.
That's why God created coffee, and I'm
Yes.
excited to be here.
And that's why we're thankful for grace. And speaking of grace, I want to ask you about the rhythm of fractured grace and what inspired that story.
Well, the rhythm of fractured grace was inspired by a true story in my family's history. My mom is a genealogist. She has traced our family history for probably, I don't know, 50 plus years now. So I've heard all these really cool stories. Basically, my ancestors came over on like the second or third boat. They weren't famous enough to come on the Mayflower. So they came like really, really soon after that, and they've been here ever since. So basically the history of the US is my family's history. Like every important historical anything, my family was part of it. And this particular story is inspired by a family that lived on the western Pennsylvania frontier in the 1790s. And they were attacked by a band of indigenous warriors, and the whole family was, I think the father survived, the mother and most of the kids were killed, and my ancestor was scalped, but she survived. Oh. And I had no idea that anybody would even survive that. And so then, of course, my writer brain is going, well, how would life be for you? Like, what would that look like? So Deborah, our past heroine, has survived being scalped as a child. And so the story is, how does she get through that? How does she recover as an adult? Like, how does this trauma inform everything that she does? And how does God come through for her and heal that? And the way this story panned out was really cool. I didn't see a lot of it coming because I'm a pantser. So I write because I want to know what happens next, because usually I have no clue.
I love that.
The contemporary timeline, when I dealt with the past timeline, one of the themes that kept coming up was forgiveness. You know, we are called as believers to forgive even the worst things that other people do to us. And so that was one of the things, is like, how is Deborah going to forgive this? And so then I thought, as a split time writer, I'm like, well, what would be a contemporary thing that would be difficult to forgive? And I kept coming up against the issue of toxic churches and spiritual abuse and sexual abuse within the churches. I mean, it's not something that we as church people like to talk about, but we have to call it out when we see it. We have to talk about it. We have to expose it, because the church should be a safe place for people, and all too often it is not. So our contemporary heroine has been through a toxic, abusive church experience that I want to say it's not inspired by any particular church. Like, this isn't me calling out a church in my hometown or anything like that. A lot of my Wichita friends are like, which church is this? It isn't. I promise. It is a conglomeration of a lot of churches and stories that I have heard. And it's like, it could happen anywhere, which is the scary part. But it's not like I'm calling you out. No, it's a general thing. But so that's how these two stories intertwine. And the way the past and present connect is through a violin. In the past timeline, the father is a violinist, and he has the violin when his family is attacked and it gets damaged. And then centuries later, it shows up again in the possession of a worship pastor, and he gets in a car accident and it's broken. He needs to take it, get it fixed. And the person who fixed it is our contemporary heroine, Siobhan.
Wow. That's so, wow. I love that, the way you wove those together.
Thank
That's
you. That's the fun part of split time.
definitely,
It's hard,
definitely.
but it's fun.
Yes. So, what are you working on next?
My next, this is Rhythm of Fractured Grace is the last book in the Sedgwick County Chronicles series. That's a 3-part series. It has Roots of Wood and Stone, The Songs That Could Have Been, and Rhythm of Fractured Grace. The next one is for my second contract with Kriegel. It's a 2-book series. It's going to be set in Illinois instead of Kansas because my publishers were like, right, somewhere other than Kansas. And I said, but. Well, I used to live in Illinois. So I said, okay, how about Illinois? It's Midwest. They still have sunflowers. I can still do that.
Yeah.
And it is another split time. I just finished the draft, so this one's real fresh in my head. It deals with a choir director and an accompanist, right? What you know, right? And they find a handwritten piece of music in their choral library, and they don't know, it looks old, they don't know who wrote it. And through their research, they discover that it belonged to a student in the 60s and 70s who went to that same school. Very talented composer. She is said to have died by suicide, but they're not 100% sure that she did. So they're kind of investigating that whole situation. So it's a little more, I don't want to say romantic suspense, but it's a little more mystery than these.
Okay. Well, that's fun, mixing it up a little bit there.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions for you. I want to ask why you have decided to write Christian fiction instead of general market, and what you want your readers to take away from your books.
Well, actually, when I first started writing, not for publication, just to see if I could do it, I was writing general market. And it felt kind of empty. Like, as a Christian, my faith is such a huge part of everything that I do. It was very difficult for me to write characters that's not true of, because I'm like, I literally don't know how to approach the world from a non-Christian worldview. And I kept running up against, not all general market has smut or objectionable
Right.
things. And I was like, well, I could just write clean general market. And I haven't ruled that out in the future. I'm still like, yeah, maybe, wherever God leads me is fine. But I felt at that point he was leading me toward Christian fiction. And I had read a little Christian fiction like growing up and stuff. Some of it I really liked, some of it I was like, this is so preachy and so cheesy, and people don't actually behave like this.
Right.
These are not real believable humans. But I discovered in general market that, like, if a person isn't like checking in with their spiritual life, that's not super believable either. So then I read Heidi Cheveroli's Freedom's Ring, which
Oh,
I
yes.
love. And I was like, oh, this is the kind of book I want to write. This is
Yes.
this is what I want to do when I grow up. This kind of thing right here. Because like
Yes.
that just ticked all my boxes. It had history. It was in Boston, which that's where my from. And I have ancestors that were in Boston during the colonial times. So like that whole book for me was just like, okay, yeah, this right here, this is what I
Yes.
want to do. And that kind of was God's like, yeah, this is where I want you right now.
I love that. Yeah, I have Heidi's book right up there. And
Oh, yay! Hi, Heidi.
and she has also inspired me so much. I did the same thing. I read her, I think the first one I read of hers was The Hidden Side. And the same
Ooh,
thing. I said,
yeah.
I want to be like Heidi when I grow up.
Yes.
She's amazing. Could you tell us a time that you're comfortable sharing that you felt God's presence in your life?
Yeah, the thing that immediately popped to mind when I read that question was the morning that I got married. My husband and I had bought a house for us to live in after we got married. I went ahead and moved into the house, and he was staying with friends, and my mom was there with me. And I woke up real early that morning, and I sat there with a cup of coffee watching the sunrise. And I just felt this peace that I've never felt before or really since. Just like, yes, this is the right thing. And everybody talks about, oh, you have second thoughts or cold feet or whatever. And I didn't have any of that that day. It was just, yes, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And that was 19 years ago on August 13th.
Aw,
So
happy
we're just a week
anniversary.
shy. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And it also shows how God connects to that romantic element in your heart,
Uh-huh.
choosing to bring you that kind of peace on your wedding day.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Um, let's see. We're going to get into our getting to know you questions now. And I used
Sure.
to call them my lightning round of questions,
Uh,
but we're authors and we have so many words, nothing goes
Oh yeah.
fast. So,
No such
so
thing as
these,
lightning round with authors.
no, there's nothing quick about it. So, what's one of your favorite books that you've read recently?
Well, I happen to have it right here. It comes out August 13th, and I'll see if I can get my camera to pick it up. It is Something
Ooh.
Borrowed. It's the novella collection from Kriegel. I don't know why my camera is doing that. So if this isn't going to be, there it is. Yeah, it's a novella collection. It features novellas by Rachel Scott McDaniel, Allison Pittman, and Susie Finkbeiner.
Yes.
Um, and these three are Rachel's a good friend of mine. Susie's a good friend of mine. I don't know Allison as well, but like I'll read anything that these guys write. So they asked me to endorse it, and I was like, "Are you kidding?" So it's the same wedding dress in three historical eras.
Oh,
Um, and like Kriegel has released a lot of Christmas novella collections. I was part of one a couple of years ago called "Oh Little Town" with Janir Trump and Deb Rainey.
yes.
This one is their first like non-Christmassy one, but they're so good. I can't even pick a favorite story. They're all good. And Susie she said she was like, I don't write romance. I have to write romance. Y'all, Susie can write romance.
Aw, I love that.
Yeah, she's very good at it. She doesn't think she is, but she is, I promise.
Can't wait to pick that one up.
Yes.
What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Honestly, I'm kind of boring. My favorite ice cream flavor is vanilla. Like, I really just love a good bowl of vanilla ice cream with like some strawberries or cherries on top or raspberries, any kind of fruit on vanilla ice cream. That's my go-to.
There you go. What is your favorite romance trope?
Ooh, I would have to say friends to lovers because that's my personal romance trope. My husband and I were
Aw,
friends first.
love it.
But I do also like a good second chance story.
Hmm.
So, because that's always, as a writer, second chance it's fun to write because they already have a history together. They already know each other. It's a little more believable for them to get together really quickly.
Yes.
But, and if it's a second chance, well, obviously something happened in their past relationship. So what is that? What's their conflict? It just kind of like the ingredients are kind of already there with second
Yes.
chance in a way that they aren't there with a lot of other things.
Yes. Those stories make it a little easier to write it,
Yeah.
mix it all together.
The one I'm writing now is enemies to lovers, and that one's hard.
Oh.
It's hard. It's like, okay, you have to give them reason to not like each other so
And
that the
yet
enemies
still
part
be
is
redeemable enough
believable.
to end up together.
Yes, and it's tricky,
It is.
but I'm trying to think what other ones I've written. I really like Grumpy Sunshine too. That one's fun. I
Yes.
wrote my novella was Grumpy Sunshine.
The one that I'm writing right now is Grumpy Sunshine.
I
It's very
love
fun.
Grumpy Sunshine.
That's also
Like that's at
that's
work.
also my
Like,
romance trope in
oh
my
yeah?
marriage.
So are you the sunshine or are you
I
the
am the
grumpy?
sunshine, and
I
he's
could have
my
guessed that.
grumpy.
Yeah.
It works
Funny
well.
at work, like I've worked with two different choir directors and it's been kind of a grumpy sunshine thing with both of them. I'm the sunshine at work and they can be a little grumpy, but that's okay. It's kind of fun. So yeah, it's
It is a
not a
fun,
romance, obviously. It's just a
right, but it's
grumpy
still a fun
sunshine
trope no matter
friendship,
what.
but
Yes,
there's still elements of that.
absolutely, absolutely. How do you come up with names for your characters?
A lot of times I will go with names that popped up in my family history. I think for my first book, most of them were like the last names came from my family directly. I think I've also done Kansas counties.
Mhm.
Um, I usually kind of pick a theme. Like I'm going to get my names from this TV show or this state's cities or something.
That's cool.
Um, and I've also discovered, like, especially with contemporary books, like heroines' names, a lot of times they have to, like, heroes and heroines' names, the first names have to sound like last names. I don't know. It's
True.
like it's weird. And I have gotten ideas from looking at my kids' class rosters because the character names always seem a little bit ahead of what the characters would have been named actually. Like somebody born in the 90s usually would not have been named Sloane, but
Right.
that's my heroine's name.
Yeah. In contemporary stories, we have no Sarah's, Amy's, Julie's, Beth's.
Yeah, we don't.
We have a little edgier names now.
Yeah, we do. And I think
Fun.
my second heroine's name was Lauren. And I know my editors were like, that's a little bit of vanilla of a name. But it was already canon because I had published it in Roots of Wood and Stone. She was a character there. And it's like, sorry, guys, I can't change your name. But then they got the
That's
last laugh because this heroine in Rhythm of Fractured Grace, her name is Siobhan. It's an Irish name. I heard
yeah,
that in a TV show once. And I was like, oh, that's how that name is pronounced because it
I
does
know.
not look
It
like.
does not.
And I needed a name for a throwaway character in my first book. And I was like, oh, Siobhan, there we go. I had no idea at that point that I'd be writing a whole book about her. And so then I'm like,
Oh,
oh
fun.
no, I have a whole book with a character named Siobhan. So I, like, on the second page, I explain how to pronounce it. And the hero's name is Matt. Like, I gotta give you an easy one.
You have to have something easy to balance with Siobhan.
Yes. And sometimes I get names from, like, I'll take the name of somebody I know and then I'll change it slightly, just like, okay, this person has a last name that is a city in Texas. So what's another city in Texas that I can give? So, like, sometimes people that I know will figure it out, but most of the time they don't.
That's fun. So that kind of goes into my next question. Do you ever write people you know into your characters?
Little bits and pieces. It's almost like those Mr. Potato Head toys when we were little, and like you'd have all kinds of different eyeballs and mouths and stuff, and you could make whatever you wanted. And I'll take like this element from this person, and I'll take this element from this person, and this element from this person,
Yeah.
but I never take a whole entire person that I know and put them in a book unless
I feel
I
like
think
there's
the only
legal
one that I have.
implications there.
Yeah, the only one I've done that with, in the book I'm writing now, the dad character is basically my dad. He passed away a couple of years ago, and so this was um, kind of my way to honor him because I hadn't really ever put him in a book, and he passed away while I was writing Rhythm of Fractured Grace. So, like, I can kind of go back to the chapter. It's like I was right here, and then everything before this, dad was here. Everything after this, he isn't. And so that was weird. I ended up getting an extension on the deadline. It's like, there you go, I need help. And they're like, we got you. It's fine.
Oh, wow. Well, what a beautiful way to honor your dad by
Yeah.
memorializing him in your book. That's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
Weird question. If you could change your name, what would it be?
Hmm. I don't know. I kind of like
Is
my
it
name.
Siobhan?
No, I don't think I would pick Siobhan. I don't know. I had always, if I was ever going to go by anything other than Amanda, I would have gone by my middle name, which is Christine. I've always liked that name. So,
It's very pretty. What is one goal you haven't reached yet?
hmm. Neither of these I have any control over whatsoever, but I would love to make a bestseller list. I haven't done that yet. Like, the novella made like the parable bestseller list for a couple of weeks or whatever, but like I would like one of my books to make like the ECPA list, or something
Yeah,
big, something I wrote by myself on a bestseller list. I would love to win a Christie Award. I've been a finalist twice, that's
that's huge.
amazing. Like, it
Yes.
still just blows my mind. It's like, what? I'm a two-time Christie finalist. I would love to win one because that's the only. I don't know, this sounds so ridiculous. That's the only major award I haven't won yet. Which is like this. I've had 3 books out. What is this even? Like, well, I feel like I'm complaining that my diamond shoes are too tight. But if it never happens, I'm cool, But I would like to do that once.
Yeah, well, that's a great goal. And it's one that, I don't think readers, I know for myself as a reader, I never even thought about all the different awards and what it means for authors to achieve
Yeah.
them. And if I see, a Selah award winning book or a Christie award winning, I'm like, oh, well, then it's really good. But I don't think about the author herself, what she had to
Yeah.
go, how hard she had to work for that and what a big deal it is. So
And I know,
um,
like, I don't write with awards in mind. I just
no,
don't, because you can't. I mean, as a
no,
professional musician, like, I've already wrapped my mind around the fact that this is an incredibly subjective field. And
yes.
what one person loves, another person might hate. Like, it's not like an Olympic race where you can look at the time and go, yes, this person is
Right.
definitively faster than this person. It's, you can't say for sure, oh, this book's good and this book isn't, because it's so subjective. So I just write what I feel like God's calling me to write, and I do my best, and whatever happens with that is what happens, and that's totally fine.
Absolutely. What is your favorite pizza or your favorite pizza toppings?
We just went to a new pizza place in Wichita last week, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best pizza place in town. Like, we've been to a lot of the other ones. This one is kind of new-ish. We'd just never been as, but it was a brick oven thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, normally when I'm ordering from like Pizza Hut or Papa John's or something, I'll just go with like a cheese or a pepperoni or something, kind of vanilla. But the pizza we had there was like, it had sausage and pepperoni, and I'm not sure what else on it, but it was like, okay, this is fantastic. So I guess for me, it depends on where it's from.
True. That is so, so true. Do you like to do anything else that's crafty or creative?
Yeah, I mean, my other job is as a musician, so that's a very creative field in and of
Yes.
itself. Writing was originally the side gig, and it still kind of is. Like, my degrees are in music. Writing was something I came to a little bit later in life. I had always liked it as a kid, but then when I started practicing all the time, it went by the wayside. And when I graduated, after I got done with grad school and was not sure what to do when I grew up, I started writing for fun. And so my creative hobby kind of became my other job. So I have 2 creative jobs and not a whole lot of time for hobbies. But like, people have asked, well, when are you going to quit music and write full time? It's like, hopefully never. Like,
Right.
I don't want to
No.
quit my day job. I love my day job, but I also love writing. So then I just got to figure out, how do I balance those two? So in this particular year, it meant write a book over the summer. Like, seriously, the last day of school, I was like, okay, it's pedal to the metal time, because this book is due August 19th and I'm nowhere near where I need to be. But God came through and I got it done.
Awesome.
So
I love
yeah.
that. Ironically, my master's degree is in composition, meaning English composition, writing.
Okay.
But
Oh, cool.
I get job offers through LinkedIn asking me if I like want to work for music schools all the time. I'm like, no, not that kind
Oh,
of composition.
yeah, no, yeah,
I'm like,
well, I would, but I'm not sure that I could teach that kind of
yeah,
composition.
no, I mean, I took piano lessons for 9 years, but you don't want me writing anything that, writing music
Huh.
is not what I was
I
called to do.
admire people who can write music, because like, I write books and I play music, but I can't write
Write music.
music. I cannot come up with a melody from scratch. And that's actually the book that I am working on now. The hero is a composer, and actually the
Oh,
past heroine also, they're both composers. And it's like, okay, what would that be like? Because I can't
yeah.
do it, but I can imagine what it would be like to be able to, and it's super cool.
That's one of the fun things of writing is living vicariously through our characters.
Yes. Yes.
So, what is your favorite part of the writing process?
Hmm. This is kind of I honestly like revisions. Like, that, a lot of people hate them, but the drafting part is actually kind of my least favorite, because that's when the book is at its worst.
Right.
It's like, okay, just get it out. And then I like going back and polishing. and like turning this pile of random words into something that makes sense. And I actually really like working with my editors at Kriegel because they are phenomenal. It's not always fun to go back and rip the guts out of it and fix this,
Yeah.
and but the finished product is so rewarding. Like the first time, my debut, when I went through and eliminated all my weasel words and made it so the characters weren't blushing 3 times a page and like
Yeah.
took all of these things out. I was like, oh, I didn't know I could write like that. That's so cool. Because working with an editor for me, it's like taking piano lessons, taking cello lessons. You go to an expert and you do your thing for them and they tell you how you can get better. And after a whole life of knowing how valuable that is, like editing, it's working with the editor is like working with the private teacher. It's
I
like
love it.
getting an expert opinion on it. And that I know how valuable that can be.
Great analogy. What is your favorite historical era to write about?
Wow. Because I've written some different ones. Written 2 pioneer books, um, 1950s, and then current timeline is 60s and 70s. Of the ones I've written, I think the pioneer era is kind of my favorite because that's the one I connect with the most, living in Kansas. Pioneers are a huge part of our history, and I'm always amazed at how people could come from having everything that they could possibly need around them in places that have hills and trees and pretty scenery, and then they come in a covered wagon with anything they would want to have there they got to bring with them, and they come to a place that is flat and has no trees and no scenery, and they live in a house made out of dirt. Like, I would not do that.
No.
I'd be like, y'all have fun. I'm gonna stay right here in my little brick house in Indiana with trees. And
Right.
yeah, like I don't know what would motivate somebody to do that, but the fact that they were able, and it was not easy. Like Kansas
No,
threw a whole bunch of stuff at them when they were first settling here, and the fact that they made it through and they survived and they thrived is just really inspiring.
it is. I would agree. Very fun era to read about, and I'm sure to write
Uh-huh.
about. Do you have any nicknames?
Nicknames? No, not really. I guess well, I don't really go by a nickname, but since my husband's name is Cheech, all of our friends when we first started dating called me Chong, like Cheech and Chong. And like my choir kids, they call me choir mom
Aw, I
sometimes.
love
So
that.
like I have 3 kids of my own, and then I have a whole passel of choir kiddos, and it says choir mom on my music notebook.
Aw, that's so cute. I love it.
Yeah.
What is your dream destination to sit and write? If you could go anywhere with any view and just sit and write, where would you go?
Someplace my kids aren't. No, I love them dearly, but it's
I
hard to write when you're
understand.
home. No, I think dream destination would be someplace, any place kind of out in the middle of nowhere with no distractions, because
Yeah.
I'm very easily distracted. And it would have to have trees and water,
Ooh,
like a lake or, probably a lake or a river or a stream or something. Just a little house out in the middle of nowhere with
sounds
trees and water.
perfect. Sounds perfect. I'm
Yeah.
ready to book it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
What's a book you're excited to read?
A book I'm excited to read. Oh gosh. Amanda Cox has one that's out. We're filming this August 6th, so today is her release day.
Oh,
Between the
yay.
Sound and the Sea. I'll
Yes,
read anything she writes. I'm excited for that one.
I'm also a big fan. She's
Yeah.
amazing. What do you love most about being an author? It's our final question.
What do I love most? Because there's a lot of things that I really love. I'm trying to figure out what I love most. And I think it goes back to being able to live vicariously through different people. Like, the realities of life is that we really do have to pick kind of a thing to do. And maybe not the same thing for our whole entire lives, but like most of us cannot be like a basketball player and then a composer and then a museum curator and then somebody that repairs broken musical instruments. Like we can't explore all of those careers.
Right.
But writing gives me an opportunity to peek into different people's lives and also kind of to time travel. I mean, reading historical fiction is the closest thing we have to time travel.
Mm-hmm.
So I like being able to peek into different historical eras and picture like what would life have been like then and feel like I can kind of, go back in time and live a little bit in that time period and then come back to my life with, Wi-Fi and
Exactly.
14 coffee shops down the street and air conditioning and running water and a refrigerator.
Yes, absolutely.
I
Love
wouldn't have made a very good historical heroine, but I like writing them.
it. Right. I agree. Same. Would not have survived in pretty much any other timeline. So I'm glad I'm here. God knew.
No. Yes, he did.
So Amanda, tell our viewers, readers, where they can learn more about you.
The best place to find me is my website, amandawen.com. It has purchase links to the books. It has links to all my socials. It has a link to sign up for my newsletter, and there's a free short story that goes along with that. So anybody that signs up will just automatically get, I can't even remember what I called it. I'm blanking. Slow Dancing in the Snow. It's a Valentine's Day themed short
Oh,
story. So
very good. We will check it out. I forgot to ask you earlier, but do you have a copy of The Rhythm of Fractured Grace nearby?
I do. Yeah,
Perfect. Can
like
you hold it up?
I will try to get there
Maybe.
it is. I'm doing better this time.
Beautiful.
Practice makes perfect-ish. No, it does not. I don't know why it's doing that,
Oh,
but
there
yeah,
you
there it is.
go. Perfect. So I love that you have the violin outline there and the beautiful sky and then the beautiful field of wheat. And so that inspired the jewelry that I created. And so I'm going to show it now.
And that is just gorgeous. I love it.
So we have our sky and our wheat field, and then I kind of mixed them together for the pendant, but not quite a violin, but we kind of get the feeling.
Yes.
So our viewers can enter to win the jewelry. All they need to do is go on social media, follow you, follow me, like one of our giveaway posts, and then comment done. And that's all they have to do. And this will start Monday morning, and Wednesday night, I will announce a winner. So
Yeah.
very fun. Thank you so much, Amanda,
Thank
for
you.
being here. And I'm excited to get my hands on a copy of your book.
Oh, thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.